And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luke Laster, here from the Wood TV Live Desk. New special airing tonight on Wood TV in prime time at 9 p.m. The most violent year target date investigation conducted by Ken Kolker, who's joining us now at the Wood TV Live Desk. Before we get rolling here, we'll get a brief summary and whatever Ken wants to share with us at this time. I do want to point out those hashtags there under our names. You see hashtag Hey Luke and hashtag Hey Ken. Any questions or comments that you'd like to make, I'll be able to see them, and we might put them up on screen there and address them. So Ken, big special airing tonight. What do you want to share about it?
Well, last year was the most violent year we've seen in West Michigan. Grand Rapids set a record with 38 homicides. I mean, the old record was 34 in 1993. The city of Wyoming broke a record for homicides. They had 8. City of Kalamazoo had the most homicides. They had 15, the most they've had in 25 years. And it turns out most of the big cities across the U.S. had big increases in homicides. So we wanted to take a look at, the reasons behind that. But we also wanted to tell the stories of the people who lost the most. So we've talked to a lot of moms. We talked to a young woman who lost her twin brother. So we're trying to tell those stories to show that these are real people being lost. They're not statistics. They're not just numbers, that they're real people.
And a piece of that story is live now on woodtv.com. That one titled "Gang Shootings Contribute to the Most Violent Year," where you did speak in that one that is live on woodtv.com. You spoke with a mother. What do you want to share about that one?
Well, her young son was associated with the Latin Kings, which is a gang in town, and they're rivals of the Mexican mob. And a Mexican mob member had been shot and killed back in July 2019 by some Latin Kings who are awaiting murder trials. And he was then shot by a member of the Mexican mob last year in an alley. The police say he fired the first shots and that he was killed in self-defense. The mom's not so certain it's self-defense because she didn't know until we showed her that the autopsy report showed he had been shot squarely in the back of the head. So that's the story, and the fact that there's been a couple of, last year there were a couple of gang homicides and a number of people who are shot and injured in gangs-related shootings. And in Kalamazoo, they don't call them gangs, they call them groups, but almost half of their 15 homicides were group-related. And in Kalamazoo, 2 years ago, they had 8 group-related shootings. Last year, they had 50. So the numbers, are up.
Again, that piece of the story is live on woodtv.com right now for you to read. The special itself airing again in prime time tonight at 9 o'clock on Wood TV. Let's open it up now to, you mentioned the record numbers in many parts of West Michigan, talking to families and getting their stories, law enforcement also as well. Gathering those stories, what is some things that you think might be surprising to the viewers?
Well, it was interesting is I worked at the Grand Rapids Press back in the 90s, and I covered the year that we set the record back then. I wrote the year-end story about the homicides, and back then, a quarter of the homicides involved guns. Just a quarter of them. I mean, there were stabbings and fires and other, strangulation and beatings, but last year, 75% of them involved guns. So that was a big change. Back in 93, maybe about a quarter were kind of like what you would call street killings. Last year, 3/4 of them were street killings. A lot of shots being fired. Grand Rapids reported a 200% increase in shots fired over the previous year, last year. And Kalamazoo saw a big increase. The city of Wyoming saw a big increase in just shots fired. So they're talking about one of the problems being the easy availability of guns. We've had a lot of gun shops, gun stores that have been broken into. I mean, I think we even had one last night. And that there are a lot of guns on the street, and they're pretty easy to buy. We talked to a county commissioner who lives on the southeast side who says that he's had people walk up to him to offer him, you want to buy this gun, maybe $150 or something for a handgun, or maybe even less. So a lot of guns out there.
You know, when you talk about the problems, obviously, that this poses throughout the special, solutions are also another point of discussion. You know, what are you willing to share, you know, at this point?
Well, it's really interesting. Before you get to solutions, you got to talk about causes, and you know, a lot of the experts point to COVID. The fact that fewer people were working, there were fewer programs for young adults, to keep them off the streets. There's more frustration. Talked to one of the moms who basically said an idle mind is the devil's workshop. She's one whose son was shot and killed, 17-year-old son was shot and killed. So, maybe people getting vaccinated, maybe, the fading away of the pandemic might help ease the violence, but there's also the matter of guns. There's also a matter of, they talk about better parenting. I mean, there's a lot of things. In '93 when they set the record, there was no COVID, so there was violence. So there are other root causes of violence, and the city of Grand Rapids is spending $225,000 on a program that will focus on going after violent criminals and trying to stop retaliation. So, City of Wyoming just added 4 cops, in part response to the growth in violence. So there are things in the city of Grand Rapids. I think in July is going to start putting cops on the streets in neighborhoods, getting to know specific neighborhoods instead of just patrolling a bigger area. They're going to be focused and get to know people better and get to know the neighborhood's problems. So they're trying to address it.
Any other kind of last minute, again, this is airing tonight in prime time on Wood TV. Any other, just facts or anything that you found with this story that you'd like to share before we do air it?
One of the stranger homicides was a kid who had gone to his best friend's gravesite. His best friend had been shot and killed May 12th, 2019. So on May 12th, 2020, he was part of a vigil at a cemetery, and someone who, I guess one of his enemies or something, shows up at the vigil. They have a shootout, and he dies right at his friend's tombstone. And the next day, his friend's dad had to wipe blood off of his son's tombstone, blood from his son's best friend. I mean, there's some just really horrific stories out there. And the thing is, we also looked at how Grand Rapids stacked up with other cities. Clearly, we're no Chicago or Detroit. Flint has half the population, but had almost twice the homicides as Grand Rapids. But we also looked at Grand Rapids, how it compares to cities its size in the U.S. We looked at like 10 other cities that have 200,000 population, and we ranked third out of that, those 10 or 11 cities. So, well, it's not like Flint or Chicago, but clearly the streets got a little meaner last year in Grand Rapids.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the most violent year, again, airing tonight in prime time at 9 p.m. on Wood TV. Part of that, again, web version is available now over on woodtv.com. Ken Kolker, thank you for taking a minute here to chat about this. We'll see you again at 9 o'clock. Thank you. This has been a look at the Wood TV Live Desk. My name is Luke Lester. Have a nice afternoon.